Who is this person on your team who never gets the credit, but without whom everything fails and falls apart? We've decoded the superstars Arjuna and Bhima in the previous episodes that you can go and check out. But tonight we are going to look into the shadows and find the silent foundation. Nakul and Sahadev, the twins. If you have ever felt invisible, or if you're a leader missing the real engine of your business, this episode is for you. Our leadership catalyst, Commander Girish Konkar, is back.
Thank you, Varad. Looking forward.
So, sir, why is ignoring the twins the biggest blind spot in the modern boardroom, according to you?
Varad, because in a storm, the flag gets the photos, but the keel keeps the ship from capsizing. And Nakul and Sahadev are the keel, the bottom of the ship. And most people think that if you took them out of the story, nothing changes. And this is a fatal leadership mistake. Tonight, we decode the masters of the dark, experts who don't need an audience and thinkers who see the disaster before it hits. And let's dive straight into the pillars.
Let's start with Nakul. The BORI text says that he was the finest swordsman of his time. Some even say that he was better than Arjuna in a close fight. Why is he always overlooked?
It's because Nakul didn't care about the fame. Their teacher, Dronacharya, turned each brother into a specialist. Yudhishthir had the spear,
Sir, was he just a fighter, or was there more to his role? Sir, there is some technical glitch. Sorry, I think there is some technical glitch uh, with the stream. I am not able to hear you. I can't hear you, sir. You can just mute and unmute probably once.
Now check. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Now I'm audible. Now you're audible, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Yes, yes,
We
yes,
can
yes.
we can disconnect okay, go ahead, please.
So I think we were on question number 3.
Yeah.
How does this silent expert lead in a modern company, sir?
Uh, I can give you an example, a modern example, in fact. You can think about, Sridhar Vembu and his company Zoho. Now, for a long time, Zoho was a secret. While other CEOs wanted to be on magazine covers, Sridhar stayed quiet. He was obsessed with the hot science of software, the actual coding. He didn't take outside money, he didn't chase fame. He built a high power engine that millions of people use today. Like Nakul, he didn't brag. He just made a system so good that customers never left. He leads by being the most prepared person in the room.
But when should a quiet leader finally speak up? And is there a right time for the person to speak up? What is the right time?
That is a most difficult question. What is the right time? Is there any? And I could say that is a discipline of timing and very difficult to pinpoint exactly which is the one. But Sridhar Vembu apparently practiced this perfectly. So he didn't start big marketing until his product was completely ready and unbreakable. That means you have to give time for the product to be perfectly ready. I think many people today, I've seen so many people, even when the product is not fully ready, they go all out. And then say, we will see. And I think a biggest example one can give is of Ola. So apparently, Vembu even said no to big investors because he didn't want to grow too fast and break these rules. And to lead like this, you must ask yourself three things. First, will you give up a quick win to protect your long term rules? Second, when you see a problem, do you fix the engine quietly or just try to look like a hero? And this is where I think Ola is the one which is at default here. And third, are you waiting because you are afraid or because you are simply waiting for the right moment? Real timing means knowing that the work you do in the dark is what supports the success you see in the light.
The true mastery is quiet. And I really love that about this whole analogy that we had. Let's move on to the second pillar, which is Sahadev. This is a fascinating part of the story where many people believe that Sahadev had a curse that kept him silent even though he knew the future. And what does the BORI text actually say about this situation?
Yeah, so this is where we must separate the folklore from the text. In the BORI Critical Edition of the Mahabharat, it's a fantastic 10 books which are there, translated by Dev Roy. there is no magic curse of silence that people talk of. And that's all folklore which probably got added later on. And therefore, instead, Sadev is a master of what is called as the Nitish Shastra. That is master of logic and morality and also Jyotish. He's so wise that Yudhishthir compares him to Brihaspati. So he didn't see the future in a crystal ball. He calculated it. He saw the patterns and the data analysis, and he knew that the war was inevitable. But in the hierarchical structure of the Pandavas of those era, the youngest was rarely consulted first. People might ask, how is that possible? They were the Pandavas, but yes, there was a system, and he being the youngest, he would be consulted the last. And many a times, this is the pain of the expert who understands the logic of the coming disaster, while many others are blinded, literally blinded by ego.
Sir, oftentimes I think even the people who are younger than you have better opinions, or they can come up with better solutions than you. And at that time, it sounds incredibly frustrating. Is there a name for this in leadership?
And the name I can think of is it's called as the danger of not asking. So in the Navy, a ship often sees in the ship when you're there on a submarine also, if a submarine is or a ship springs a leak, okay, and that is generally seen before the captain does. Now, if the captain doesn't build that entire ecosystem of trust and dialogue with the junior most people, the ship can sink. I mean, look at our example is the Challenger space shuttle disaster. See, the engineers had the data. They knew that the parts are very likely to fail in the cold when the space shuttle was re-entering. They knew that the probability of it failing was very high. But the system that they had at NASA was too bureaucratic and stiff. And the bosses didn't really ask for the truth. They just wanted to stay on schedule. And the shuttle exploded because the experts who had seen the signs of incoming disaster, they were ignored. Sahadev was in that room during the dice game, but the door to his wisdom was locked from outside by a culture that did not value the youngest voice. And maybe if the system then would have been where you had the opinion that others could also speak up as required, whenever required, maybe Mahabharat would have had a different turn altogether.
Definitely, sir. And at this point, I want to say that folks, please like, share, subscribe, and post your aha moments in the comment section below. Your comments give us the motivation to bring such powerful content to you every week. And with this, moving on to the next question, sir. How can a leader today avoid making that same mistake?
Yeah, I mean, example is look at Anand Mahindra from Mahindra and Mahindras. Apparently, when he was developing the XUV 500, uh, Mahindras were not a traditional car making company. They were making Jeeps, but making a high-end car for the modern day audience, a modern day customer was not their forte then. So he didn't just listen to the top managers. He just didn't call his top probably VPs and say, okay, we're going to build a car and do this and do this, do this. He created a young Mahindra culture. He let the young engineers, the Sahadevs of his company, challenge the old way of doing things. They didn't listen to the staff and customers to realize Indian drivers wanted a global look, but Indian toughness. I mean, they listened to the customer. And by making sure that the junior voices could reach the top, they created a massive hit. Anand Mahindra built a system that finally asked his specialists, the junior specialists, what are we missing? Because the first car that they built, the Renault, what is the name? They're a Renault tie-up, bombed, didn't do well. But XU 500 took off.
This example reminds me also of how Royal Enfield made its way back into the Indian market with a young leader in Siddhartha taking to where Royal Enfield is today. And I want to move on to the next question, sir, with this. How does the burden isn't just on one person who knows, but it is also on the leader to seek them out.
Exactly. So every company has a Sahadev, someone who sees the future through the data and the logic. The question isn't, do I have one? The question is, have you asked them what they see? If you have an open door, but no one uses it, then it's just a decoration. You have to proactively go out there and ask. Sahadev, taking the name of Tantripal in exile, managed the king's cattle, a role requiring actually massive organizational oversight. And he was always doing this high level work, even when he wasn't the one who was wearing the crown. So, the lesson I would say is that you have to go out and to the bottom levels and seek answers. You will not get them by sitting in your glass cabins.
That is deep if you're thinking of a Sahadev on your team right now. So tag them in the comments, guys, and let them know you're listening. Sir, let's move on to pillar number three. The twins sacrificed just as much as their brothers. They suffered through the same exile and fought the same war. Yet they are almost like footnotes in history. How did they handle being ignored?
Yeah, how do they? Yeah, it happens a lot of time. People ignore you. But here comes one of the deepest lessons from Mahabharata. It's about what they don't do. Nakul and Sahadev were always at the back. Yudhishthir was the leader, Arjun was the hero, Bhima, Bhim was the power. The twins always stayed in the shadows. Right through when they lost everything and risked their lives, their names were rarely mentioned first. And here is the key, they never complained. They chose to value themselves from the inside. They chose equanimity. They gave 100% effort without being bitter. They loved the duty more than the applause. And that is because of the purpose. I always keep talking about this purpose, that purpose is supreme. If your purpose is well defined, then everything else becomes much easier.
I think that kind of quality is needed in today's date where people give in 100% effort and they are less bitter. So, in the modern example, is there a modern example where there is this quiet dedication that you can give us?
Yeah, I think we have a big example in many examples I can give you. One of the major examples one can think of is the ISRO scientists. We have done phenomenal stuff in the space world now, and ISRO we have sent the rockets to the Mars. Chandrayaan is being built, and we landed what do you say, Chandrayaan on the moon. So we remember the famous photographs and the big speeches being given by our prime minister. But think about the twins on that mission. And there are thousands of engineers literally checking the code and testing every screw. And these are highly qualified engineers. They're not average you and me guys. They are highly qualified, experienced people. And most of them live in simple houses. They took the bus to work. And even if one tiny sensor failed, the whole mission would crash. People worked 18-hour days and missed family weddings, and yet 99% of their names never made the news. They didn't do it for fame, they did it for the mission and the purpose. They are the mission sustainers who kept the engines running while the world looked at the stars. Another example I can give you here is of the submarines. India just 2-3 days ago, we launched the INS Arindam, uh, which is the third of the nuclear submarines, Arindaman.
Right.
Now, it has taken us, I think, post 71, I think somewhere in 70, 73 or something like that, the first go ahead of building a nuclear submarine was given. That means some 50 years has gone into the development of that nuclear submarine. Imagine trying to compress a massive reactor, which otherwise is spread over acres of land, into a tiny submarine, uh, a small capsule with practically no maintenance, which can be done, which normally you'd have maybe some 20, 30 engineers. If something goes wrong, they'll go change a valve, they'll go change a PCB, they'll change equipment. Here in submarine, you can do nothing. I mean, to bring it up to that level of efficiency and that level of accuracy and standards, not easy. Do we even know the name of the persons who designed that? We don't know. There are some absolutely silent engineers working somewhere in Kalpakkam and various places, and they came out with this. It's a marvel of engineering, probably far more complex than a space rocket and a spaceship, because surviving underwater with immense pressure. So if a submarine is at 300 meters, that means it's got 30 bar, that is 30 kg per square centimeters pressure acting on a submarine. The submarine pressure sinks. So getting a steel of that caliber, of that quality itself. So okay, if we can go on that one topic itself. But coming back to that topic, to our question, your question, yes, there are a number of backroom engineers, people, scientists, or whatever is your personal forte. People do it without, they don't do it for the recognition. They do it for the purpose and the vision and the mission. I always say purpose, vision, mission, values are supreme. Please go ahead.
So how can a leader check if they or their team are living this pillar that we just discussed?
Yeah. For this, one has to perform what is called as an ego audit. Some of the things one can do for the ego audit: first, do you work less hard when no one is watching you? That's one marker. If your quality drops without a spotlight on you, then you're just a performer, not a leader. A real leader has high standards even in the dark. Second, look for the people doing twin work on your team, the boring but essential tasks, and just give them a human thank you. And finally, try out the backseat test. If your name was taken off the big project, would you still do your best? Your answer tells you if you care about the immediate goal, that is the purpose, the vision, the mission, the values, and the goal, or you just want the trophy and the recognition. Think of it this way. A true leader doesn't need to be seen to be effective. If you only care about the credit, you are building a monument to yourself. You're not then building a future for your team. And the twins teach us that the most important work stays invisible. When you are excellent without an audience, you have reached true mastery. It is about loving the process more than the prize. And Gita is very famous. They say that karmanne vadhika rasya ma phaleshu kadachana. Don't worry about the goal, end goal, what you will get. Focus on the current task, focus on your process. The end goal will come. So if you can stay excellent without the star title, you have a power that no one can take away.
This is another very interesting thing that our young audience can pick up in applying in their lives. So, sir, is there a big moment in the BORI text where Sahadev changes everything? It's during the Rajasuya Yajna. And what did Sahadev actually do in this whole moment?
Yeah. Now, Rajasuya Yajna was a massive operation. You see, to become emperor, Yudhishthir had to either, no, every king, that is, for Yudhishthir to become the emperor, every king in the region had to either join you or be defeated. So he has to accept your sovereignty. So therefore, you become entitled to be called as a Chakravarti. The brothers, the Pandavas, they split the world into four parts. So Sahadev went to the south. And this was a complex puzzle because the south had powerful kingdoms. And there was Sahadev did rush in with weapons and the army and the military. So he mapped out the entire region first. He understood that you cannot win a complex game if you don't understand the pieces. It's a jigsaw puzzle. And Sahadev did succeed because he treated the mission like a series of connections. So even sent an envoy to uh, Lanka, who sent tributes. He knew that in the big system, knowing whom to talk to is more important than knowing whom to fight.
So
So diplomacy also played a big role.
did he just go in and conquer them all by force?
Now, like I just said, diplomacy, or rather, he used smart diplomacy. So he studied each kingdom. He realized that you don't always need to fight to win. Sometimes simply solving a partner's problem is the best way to get them to be on your side. And he used his brain to save his brother's swords for the bigger battles ahead. In fact, we're also doing this parallelly. We're doing the CEO of Swaraj episodes where we're analyzing Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In that, the same thing comes up. In Shivaji's, we always know Shivaji as a real battle veteran and CEO who took on the mighty emperors. But there are many a times when Shivaji won his battles by pure diplomacy. So it's not that every time you take out your sword and fight. Diplomacy plays a big role also. So Sahadev used his, I would say, his brain more than his brawn to save his brother's swords for the bigger battles ahead. And in modern business, this is like a manager, leader who fixes all the tiny issues before they become huge crisis. So even before they blow up, you tackle it in advance to say that this could potentially be a problem and you solve it. So Sahadev was a silent architect who made sure the foundation was strong before the building went up. In the Navy, we have this differentiation between the tactical and the strategic intelligence. And Sahadev is the ultimate strategic officer.
And is there a corporate example of this strategic map reading?
Yeah, one name that comes to mind is that of TV Narendran at Tata Steel. So in 2013, the steel market was apparently in a mess. There was a crisis in the steel market. Now, Narendran didn't try to fix everything at once. And like Sahadev, he mapped the territory and he figured out which parts of business were strong and which were weak. He built smart alliances in Europe because Europe was undergoing a great turmoil. So he built alliances while making the India business deeper. Now, he wasn't the loudest voice because many people wouldn't have even heard about him. But he was the most precise map reader. He saved a giant company by knowing exactly where to move and, more importantly, when. He realized that to survive, the company had to change its shape and not just work harder.
Sir, we have now reached the final pillar. I want to talk about the end, the Mahapratishtana. The one by one, the brothers fall. And what does the BORI text tell us about why the twins fell?
Yeah, so when the Mahaprasthan, their ascent to heaven was climbing up the Himalayas, so you can think of this as the ultimate exit interview. As the brothers climb up the Himalayan mountains, They are not stopped by the cold, but they are stopped by their own pride. And the BORI text is very specific here. Sahadev is the first one to fall because, unfortunately, by then he believed that no one else was as wise as him. Next to fall was Nakul. And he fell because he believed that no one was as handsome as him. So he had an ego is the one which came into play here, that I am the most handsome of them all. And both were actually great, but they let their skills and their image that was created within in their minds become their entire identity. Now, when you believe your wisdom or your face is unequaled, you stop listening and you also stop growing.
But they were actually wise and talented. So why is it a flaw to know that you are good?
Yeah, okay. It is not about feeling good, it is about the ego that nobody can be better than me. And in business, we could call this as the expert trap. Is when your past success makes you blind to new ideas. Sardev's pride was his intellect. Nakul's was in his roop, that is appearance, image, that is handsome. Now your excellence help you climb the mountain, but your ego becomes the weight that pulls you down. A leader who thinks they're irreplaceable becomes a bottleneck for the entire team. Look at, I think, Nokia in 2020, 2007. They were the kings of hardware. They were perfect in execution, like Nakul. But they laughed at the iPhone. They were using wisdom from an old book while the rules had changed. They fell because they wouldn't let go of their old mastery.
So how does a master stay on their feet until the end?
You must remain a student. True leadership is being the master of your craft while staying humble. Ask yourself, are you measuring success by the old rules? Are you looking for a competitor's strengths or just pointing out their weaknesses? If your skills vanish tomorrow, would you still be a leader? Don't let your past wins become the weight that pulls you down. The belief in your own goodness can be the thing that limits you. That's a wake-up call.
Folks, just a reminder, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so now and continue. You can continue hearing more such interesting conversations about leadership. And so moving on to the next question. Before we log off, what can you give us as a powerful final takeaways for our viewers?
Yes, I do have an audit that every leader should undertake at whatever level in the organization you are or in life where you are. Every leader has a Nakul and a Sahadev in their team. And tonight's audit is 5 simple questions for you and your team on mastery. The first one is on mastery. What is the one thing your team does so well that no one even notices it? Real power doesn't need an announcement. The second one is on foresight. Who on your team sees a problem coming but hasn't been asked for their opinion? Find them. Don't just give a review. Just ask, what am I missing? Third is on fairness. Find a person doing the boring work. Look them in the eye and say, I see you. This mission runs because of you. Thank you. Next one is on strategy. Look at your next big project. If the person who actually knows the map isn't in the meeting, go get them. And last one I can give is on the expert trap, the fifth one. What skill are you most proud of? Now talk to someone who disagrees with you and ask them to challenge your ideas. In the final analysis, I would say you need Arjun for focus and Bhim for the grit. But without the twins, the quiet experts and the silent strategists, the formation breaks. Nakul and Sahadev showed up every day. They didn't need a trophy. They knew the mission was bigger than their fame. Find your twins. Ask your Sahadev the right question. And if you are the twin, know that the system runs on you.
We have decoded the precision of Arjuna, the grit of Bhima, and tonight the silent expertise of the twins. We have seen the men who fought the war, but there is one figure who stands entirely outside this formation. The one who never picked up a weapon and yet decided every single outcome on the field.
Yes, Bharat. And next week, we reach the summit. We are going to be decoding the ultimate non-combatant leader, Krishna. Forget the miracles for a moment. We are going to look at Krishna through the cold lens of strategic empathy and a high-stakes crisis management. How do you lead when you are the one holding the sword? How do you win a war without firing a single shot? Folks, if you want to move from being just a manager or just a leader to being the architect of a legacy, you cannot afford to miss this next episode. We are going to be diving deep into the BORI text to uncover the most sophisticated leadership mind in history, the master strategist, the ultimate dharma, in episode 12. If episode 12 is the one you've been waiting for, hit the notification bell and the subscribe button right now, because you do not want to be late for this one. And see you next Thursday at 8 p.m.